All right. This is WZRD Chicago 88.3 FM. And we have with us Christopher Swann. He is running for U.S. Senate. Hello, Christopher.
Hello, how are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Great.
So Dick Durbin is retiring and you hope to win his seat.
Yes, yes.
Have you you've seen Dick Durbin's work and do you feel that there's some things that you can improve upon to help your constituents?
Oh yeah, most definitely. I mean, I think Durbin has spent a good 30 years in office, and I think he had a couple. Well, I know he had a couple years before that in the House, and so I think he's done great work for the folks of Illinois, and so we're proud of that. I think we're proud of having Durbin as our senator for that long. But I do think that it's time for some new leadership, and I'm glad that Durbin has realized that and took the step to step down this cycle. But I think one of the main things that has compelled me to run is the fact that our Democratic leaders today uh, aren't stepping up to the plate in terms of calling what's happening in Palestine a genocide and an ethnic cleansing. And I believe that if we can't, as leaders, stand 10 toes down in our values and call out genocide across the sea, then how do we expect our leaders to stand up for us when it comes to the issues that's facing Illinois across the state?
Do you have any idea why they are not standing up to genocide? What is pulling them back, do you feel?
Yeah, I mean, I think there are a number of things, but I believe some of them have to do with the donor class, right? Some of these leaders are getting money from such organizations as APAC or APAC adjacent, and they don't want to lose those class of donors. They don't want to lose that money, even if they feel in their heart of hearts that it is genocide. Right? They're looking at the atrocity from the news. They're looking at the pictures. They're seeing starving women and children. They're seeing hospitals and schools being bombed and folks being buried under rubble. And yeah, that they might, at their dinner table call it a genocide, but I think they feel a little apprehensive in terms of saying that publicly because they don't want to lose some of that support that they're getting currently.
Mhm. And APEC adjacent, who are they?
Oh, I'm not calling out any specific organization when I say APAC adjacent. I'm just saying when I talk about APAC adjacent, I'm talking about organizations or folks that believe in that Zionist movement that the Israeli government has been pushing for a number of years.
Mhm. And do you have you done some research? Is it that in their campaign disclosures, they have received donations from these organizations, and that is might be causing this perpetuation of this policy.
Yeah, yeah, there's a great organization. I'm blanking on the name. I want to say it's like Watch APAC or something like that. I'm blanking on the name that actually does a good job of looking at federal offices, so both congressional and Senate seats all across the country, and tallying up the number of APAC donations that go to particular folks in those offices, and so. Yeah, in those seats, some of the top Democrats that are running in this cycle are receiving some of that APAC money.
Mhm.
I don't know if they are going to, take that money this cycle, but in the past, we've seen from those FEC filings that they've taken that money. Yes.
Mhm. And so, uh, since there are many senators who are taking this money. Do you think it'll be difficult for you to actually change policy? How how is it? possible to change the status quo?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's always possible to change the status quo. I mean, I don't think I would be running, or you wouldn't see anybody running for office if, you didn't believe in hope that you could change the status quo. So definitely, I think it's possible. Is it a hard road ahead? Most definitely. But we're ready to take on that challenge. And I believe you see a swell of progressive leaders popping up and running for offices that are willing to call the Israeli government out and stop sending weapons of mass destruction to Israel. So that they don't use that on innocent civilians in Palestine. And then also, we see that in the House, and then we see folks running for Senate as well. That believe in that mission. So, yeah, I think if the movement is grassroots and we stay on the ground, we talk to the people. We've seen in public polling that public sentiment is definitely more in favor, especially around the Democratic base, more in favor of calling it genocide and ethnic cleansing and acting against that genocide by putting more pressure on the Israeli government to have a ceasefire, to move towards a two-state solution, and also uh, provide the tools necessary so that Palestinians can achieve self-determination. We're seeing that ground movement all across the country and right here in the state of Illinois. And so if that continues, which I believe it will, I think you'll see some progressive leaders. I'm not saying that all of this is going to happen tomorrow, right? Change doesn't always happen overnight as much as we would like for it to happen overnight. But that's why we got to keep our foot on the necks of the system so that we can see the change that we strive to see.
Not only is there that genocide that you're discussing, there is also the children and working class that is not getting enough resources, not making enough money because of the same sort of status quo. What is
Mhm.
what special interests have you seen who are getting the money rather than the people getting the money from our taxes that we pay?
Yeah, are you saying that because of the way it's set up now, we're sending so much money overseas, and that money could be used for services here at home? Is that what we're talking about?
You mentioned in your website that the resources could be spent better, that more money could be used to help the working class because
Oh, okay, yeah, yeah, yes, yes.
and,
I
and
mean, most definitely. You did an interview a couple months ago with a Georgia state senator that was talking about, and I forgot her name, but that was talking about the military-industrial complex, right? And we spend so much money um, on our defense system, and I'm not saying that we shouldn't spend some money on security, right? I mean, one of the reasons the United States has become a country of envy is because of our security apparatus. But there's a lot of wasteful money going to these defense contractors and countries like Israel that are using that money to um, for nefarious means. We could be using that money right here at home. We can have basic guaranteed income. We could replace our current social safety net that's fractured, right? I mean, you have SNAP, you have housing, uh, and we could provide families with cash payments when they fall below a certain threshold and give them cash so they can use that money for their needs, right? Whether they want to use that for rent, whether they want to use that for a mortgage, whether they want to use that for food or whatever, they can make that determination by using cash payments. We have the money, and it won't send us into skyrocketing debt. But we have to think about what our priorities are. Are our priorities giving tax cuts to billionaires and millionaires, and also sending a bunch of money to defense contractors, or our priorities the working families right here in the state of Illinois and across the country? You put your money where your mouth is what my folks at home would say.
Mhm. How difficult is it to fight against these defense contractors and those who are getting the tax breaks? Uh, how could we remove those tax breaks and return the taxes that we paid for the people who paid the taxes?
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, I think on the tax break situation, I think it's quite easy, right? If we win a majority in Congress and the House in this next election, and a Senate majority is quite difficult. But if we can get a simple majority in the Senate, I think number one, we're going to have to get rid of the filibuster, and then once we get rid of the filibuster, I think we can overturn all of these tax breaks that started with George W. Bush, and then extended with the Trump administration twice. We can overturn those current tax breaks and increase taxes on that billionaire and millionaire class. Now, on the defense side, cutting our defense budget and rerouting that money to some social services and even some diplomatic efforts so that we can actually prevent wars. Trump and conservatives use that term peace through strength, but actually peace comes through negotiation. Peace comes through diplomacy, not just through might and pure strength. We've seen that through history. But that's a little difficult. That's a little more difficult because you still have Democrats in Congress, and a good portion of Democrats in Congress that still believe in that kind of defense, military, industrial complex mindset and ideology. And so it's gonna take some time to get them on that progressive end. I believe in the big tent party, so I'm not kicking folks out of the party because they are not 100% aligned where I might be right now. But I think that we got to have those conversations with some of those more moderate or hawkish Democrats, and so that they can realize security can be done, national security can be met not just by ballooning the defense budget, but by actually securing our constituents here at home with jobs, securing them with homes, securing them with food to eat. And then also security can be done by actually doing some capacity building abroad, right? That's not military work. That's diplomatic work.
Mhm. Have these initiatives ever been tried to what you suggest? Uh, were you able to do any research?
You're talking about in terms of the diplomatic side and
Both,
capacity
yeah, yeah,
building.
yes, and
Yeah. Oh,
removing those tax breaks and then using diplomacy and as you
yeah.
said.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll walk it back and start on the foreign policy end. I mean, I think that the clearest example is the Marshall Plan, right? After World War II, when Europe was ravaged by the war and by the Germans, it was the United States that took the time to spend money, millions of dollars, to pour into Europe for capacity building, right? Supporting businesses, supporting governance in those countries. And we see what that came, right? Europe is much stronger. The development of the European Union is directly linked to the Marshall Plan. And the European Union is directly linked to the stability that we see in Europe, even with the tyrant that we see as Putin in Russia trying to uh, invade Europe by way of Ukraine. We can see the resolve of Europeans, including Ukrainians, and you can walk that back because of United States investment into Europe. And so we don't have to stop there, right? I mean, that was over 50, 60 years ago, right? We don't have to stop there. We can go further, right? We can do some capacity building in Southeast Asia. We can do some capacity building in in Africa, right? Africa is poised to have the largest middle class in the next couple decades, and so I think we're gonna if we're talking about competition with China, which you'll hear a lot of politicians in DC talking about competition with China. Real competition with China is going to be about a polarity competition, right? Whose team are you on? And we're not going to win any team members by swinging weapons around. We're going to win team members by doing some capacity building and earning more friends there.
Have you held public office before?
No, no, I have not. This is my first run at public office, but my 10 years in at a national nonprofit, I think has prepared me for policy work and policy discussions. I've had the opportunity to go all over the country and fight for hunger, and I am proud of the work that we've done as an organization and my tenure there. And even though I haven't held public office and haven't been in the thick of the politics of it, I think that being able to bring folks together to fight hunger, there's some politics in that and some policy in that has prepared me for this work. Plus, I have a grandmother that's deeply rooted in Chicago politics that has campaigned on the Harold Washington team, and she has definitely trained me for this moment with our frequent Sunday dinner discussions.
Oh, well, you are also a pastor. Has
A
that affected?
deacon, a deacon. You're gonna
Deacon.
get me in trouble with a pastor.
Okay.
But no, yeah,
Sorry.
I'm a deacon, and I'm deeply rooted in my church. I'm a son of a deacon. I am a nephew of a pastor, but I am deeply involved in my community, and definitely deeply involved in my local church. Yes.
Mhm. Is your work as a deacon, did that affect your decision to run?
Oh, 100%. And more so not just as a deacon, but as a believer in the gospel, and as a Christian. It is really what compelled me to get into this race because as I said at the beginning of the interview, when I looked around of who was putting their hat in the ring and going to run for this seat as Dick Durbin had stepped down, I, as we saw those images on TV and on social media for months, and we didn't have leaders calling it out, right? We had leaders saying, "Hey, we need a ceasefire." You had leaders saying, what's happening to women and children is bad, but I still believe in Israel's right to defend itself. I was like, you can't vacillate, right? You can't be on one side of the fence one day and sit on the other side of the fence the next day. You can't have it both ways. You're going to have to stand 10 toes down on your values. And when we see those pictures, and when I knock on doors, when I'm meeting families and meeting voters across the state, what I'm hearing when I talk about my reason for entering the race, they say yes. When I look at those pictures, when I see those videos and those images, it breaks my heart. And it's sad to know that no one is doing anything about our Democratic leaders. And when I say no one, right, I'm using that that term because you do have Illinois leaders that are pushing against the system. Folks like Delia Ramirez, a congresswoman. And so you have folks that are pushing the system, but I think from the Illinois delegation, we need more. We need more. And I would call out Jonathan Jackson as well. First Congressional District has definitely pushed the system on this as well.
Mhm. The universal health care, so that would extend a little bit beyond Obamacare.
Oh, 100%, right? I believe the work that Obamacare did back in was at 2010 was necessary. It, that's what they could get at the time. And so I'm not gonna rehash a fight that happened while I was in the middle of college. um, but I think that it's beyond time for us to move forward. A lot of developed countries, even our neighbor to the north, have moved toward a universal healthcare system for decades. And while Americans continue to see health insurance premiums skyrocket, right? And many Americans going into healthcare debt because the system is just not working. And just strengthening Obamacare, unfortunately, will not lower costs. Well, I mean, will not lower costs to the point of getting people out of debt. Uh, and so we need to really rethink back to what I was saying before, what our priorities are. And our priority should be a healthy nation. Listen, you got Trump and friends like RFK Jr. running around talking about let's make America healthy again. You know how you make America healthy again? By prevention. And you know how you do prevention? It's making healthcare free at the cost of service. So folks don't fear going to the hospital. They go to the hospital regularly and can do preventative care. That's how you lower the cost, right? Per person. But we got to prioritize that as a country. We got to prioritize that as a people. But I believe you're seeing a push for that, right? Bernie Sanders has been pushing Medicare for all for quite some time. You got folks like AOC, you got the squad members. And so I think you have a swell of support for universal health care in Congress. And so when Democrats regain the Senate and the House, I think that needs to be one of our top priorities.
Mm. Have you ever encountered people who encourage you not to run?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's a couple of folks that were scared that running as an outsider could lead to failure, and were more so on the side of like, hey, if you run and you don't make it and you don't get it, then how would that look for your career? If you wanted to go into public office later on. But I'm not concerned about that, right? I believe that what we see today and the leadership that we see in terms of the candidates that are running, I believe my voice and the voice of others like mine is necessary, and so I'm prepared to go through the thick of it and fight the uphill battle to get this nomination, and then eventually win in November that general election, so that we can get seated. And listen, when I get seated as Christopher Swann, I'm not just bringing myself, right? I'm bringing my family, I'm bringing my community, I'm bringing the coalition that has backed this movement of progressivism.
When you
Bless you.
started, thank you. When you started to run, you said you had this coalition, and has this uh, coalition supported other candidates that sorry, ascribe to similar positions as you?
Um, Sorry, can you?
Well,
Yeah,
are there
sorry.
other candidates that your coalition is assisting that that share your position, that share your platform?
Yeah, I believe listen, we're just building we're just building the coalition right now. We're just getting that started. So as we build it out and strengthen it, you'll see like endorsements and folks who back it. And so I don't want to get ahead of that right now, but I think you'll definitely see more of that to come as we get later down the road.
Mhm. So what geography would your office cover so that some of our listeners might not know?
Oh, well, I mean, I'm running for Dick Durbin's seat, so it's going to be statewide, so
Okay.
all across the state of Illinois.
And also, how many signatures do you need?
5,000 is the minimum, is 5 to 10,000, but we are pushing for 20,000 signatures, right? We want to show we want to show that there's some strength in numbers there.
And there are some offices in which if you can't get too many signatures, you have there's a maximum that you're allowed to
Yeah,
get.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's 10,000. So yeah, it's 5,000 to 10,000. But as you know, and your listeners probably already know, when you submit your signatures, folks will be lining up to knock names off of those signatures and try to verify those signatures. So we want to make sure that we come in with a big stack that can can cover a lot of that.
Mhm. Uh, so do you can you submit more than 10,000 or you have to just submit 10,000 and then hopefully those 10,000 will stick. If you submit too many, would that count like as the number that's over 10,000?
Yeah, they're only going to count the 10,000.
Okay. You
Yeah.
won't get disqualified if you submit over 10,000?
No, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there is it's so hard to understand these elections and their requirements, their signature requirements. Some of them
Mm.
you're not allowed to get too many. It's it's
Yeah.
I don't really understand it yet.
It's a little out there. I
Yeah.
mean, it's if we could talk about it, I think it's a system that needs to be changed, right? It's about party politics. And I understand, back then, that's how the country was run. But we've seen how party politics can corrupt. And, even though I believe in a strong Democratic Party, um, I believe you still need an open Democratic Party and to have that putting this, certain restrictions like an arbitrary number like 10,000 signatures so that folks can have a voice or have options on the ballot. I think can be too much. I think we could reform that. No one's having that discussion, and I'm not necessarily having that fight right now, but I think it is a discussion that we'll need to have down the road, most definitely.
Mhm. Because otherwise, so much of everything will remain the same. Uh, do you feel that the Democratic Party has not really changed much over the years?
Yeah, I don't think I want to say that the Democratic Party has not changed much over the years. I think there definitely has been change over the years. I think some of the issue is how it has changed over the years. I think there's two things to that question. Where the Democratic Party was at a certain point in time, like let's take I think folks will probably say like a prime of the Democratic Party was at some point in the 90s, right? That kind of Clintonian Democrat, primary colors type of Democrat. Um, there was a prime there, but I think even then the Democrats weren't necessarily speaking to their base. When I talk about that base, I'm talking about the base of voters of color. Um, as the Democratic Party has evolved, and I think this is party politics on both sides, but the GOP has done some crazy things in terms of acquiescing to Trump politics. But party politics in general has gotten so into the data and consultants that they only move based on what they might see trends or data doing, right? And so the the days of knocking on doors and talking to constituents and understanding face to face what voters are feeling and understanding the needs of voters, I do think that that's missing. That does not mean that you change your value system based on what you hear a voter says, but it does change how you communicate your value to certain voters. And I think that that's missing. I think even right here in Illinois, right, Democrats have largely lost most of rural counties. I think all rural counties across the state of Illinois. And I don't think the Democratic Party today of Illinois cares that it has lost that. I don't think that the Democratic Party needs to become more conservative to win downstate. I think they need to do a better job of communicating progressive values downstate. But you don't even see that progressive infrastructure happening downstate because they look at the data, they look at Cook County, they look at Will County, they look at DuPage County and say, hey, we can win the state of Illinois by just running up the numbers in these kind of democratic strongholds, and we won't even care or talk to the voters downstate. And so I think that's, I
That
think
been the
that's a
case?
losing battle.
Well, that seems to have been the case over many years already.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's what has changed about the Democratic Party, and that's not just in Illinois, right? I think that's across the country. We need to be running in every election. I was having this conversation with my wife about even states like Mississippi. Mississippi has a strong Black population, right? But Democrats do not spend the money to build an infrastructure to convince Black voters to get registered and turn out the vote, even though I understand there's disenfranchisement happening to Black voters in the South. You need to be spending the money to get Black voters excited to turn out the vote. If they turned out the vote for Black voters and got Black voters registered, which is a Democratic base, they could be competitive in statewide elections. But they're not doing that. That's the same for Louisiana. That's the same for Alabama. That's the same for Tennessee. We could be competitive in the South if we turned out Black votes, Black and brown votes.
Mhm.
But we don't build the infrastructure. We give it up and say, hey, it's not a Democratic stronghold right now. We'll spend money in Michigan.
You mean the Democratic Party in Illinois? They're not trying to get out the vote from the black and brown voters either.
Uh, I would say the Democratic Party in Illinois. I I definitely think at times can take advantage of the Black and brown vote. But I would largely say that the Democratic Party of Illinois understands that its base is Black and brown voters.
Mhm. Because it seems as if some of the more impoverished areas that we've seen, there hasn't really been much movement toward uh, improving the community, increasing generational wealth, nor actually being there and registering people to vote, convincing people, enlightening them about the importance of voting. The it seems as if that's that's perpetually an ignored community, which does not even want to be. It's very hard to convince about the importance of voting and that uh, politics could actually improve their lives.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that you see in communities that have been harmed by certain policies or don't see um, don't see the benefits always trickling down to them. Definitely feel why is it necessary? Why am I going out to to go vote? And I think this goes back to what I was saying at the beginning, right? That kind of moral courage of what we see happen in Palestine when you got our democratic leaders not standing up to clear atrocities happening to women and children um, over there in Palestine. Like, how do you expect them to come to our neighborhoods and to our communities and then fight for universal health care? Fight to end hunger, right? Like that's the work that I've been doing in the nonprofit space is fighting to end hunger. America has the resources to end hunger, but we will not take the steps necessary to actually do it. And that just isn't because of Republicans or conservatives blocking. It's also because Democrats have been weak on some of these issues.
And it seems as if the louder voices they still haven't gained a foothold. They we hear them such as Bernie Sanders and AOC, but the policies are pretty much still the same.
Yeah, but that's why we need more progressive voices. That's why I'm running. So we have one more progressive center, right? That's one extra vote to turn the tide. And again, as I was saying earlier, you see a movement of younger progressives running for office in both the House and the Senate. And I believe in 2026, 2028, we're going to be winning these elections and turning the tide. And when Democrats take control of the House and the Senate, and eventually the White House, there's going to be a progressive reckoning. Or I should say a progressive revival. Let me not say reckoning, a progressive revival.
Mhm. How do you think that you could gain enough support by not taking corporate money or special interest money? Do you have enough money coming in from donors to support such a statewide campaign?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a as I said before, it's an uphill battle, and it's going to continue to be an uphill battle. But the way that we do this is movement building and grassroots, and that takes time, right? And it is not always. We look at AOC right now, and AOC brings in millions of dollars from grassroots funding, and we're proud of a movement like that. And there are others in Congress that are doing a similar thing, but that didn't happen overnight, right? You have to build that infrastructure, and that's what we're building here in the state of Illinois. So, I'm not here and gonna sugarcoat and say that this is going to be easy and that there's this huge coalition of grassroots that's backing me from on day one. That's something that we're building. That's infrastructure that we're building. But we believe we're going to get on the ballot and we're going to have the funds necessary to have this David versus Goliath primary campaign, and we're going to come out on top because we believe folks are begging for something different, and we hear it every time we knock on doors, every time that we go to events. We hear folks excited about this campaign, excited about this candidacy, excited about this movement because they want something different.
When did you start getting signatures?
The first day was that August. It was like the first week in August. I can't remember the exact date, but it
That's
was like the
okay.
first week in August. Yeah.
So you have 90 days altogether. So you're about already at the halfway mark of time.
100%. Yes.
Hmm. And when do you have to file? When is the first day that you can file?
October 27th. I believe I'm getting that right.
Okay. Is it difficult getting signatures? It seems as if before I'm at public spaces and we see people asking for signatures. This time around, I only saw one a candidate, and then he was on the train by himself trying to get some signatures that going aboard trains. And
Yeah.
it seems as if there aren't that many people going out to ask people to sign their petitions?
Yeah, no, I am out there knocking on doors in neighborhoods across the state. I haven't necessarily been downstate, but we're going downstate in a couple of weeks to do some canvassing. And I've had volunteers that have gone out and knocked on doors, and then we've been at events and um, talking with voters. But listen, some of these folks that are, some of those bigger names in the party, right? They can pay off people, right? They can give people some money, and we've seen that, folks are getting paid to get signatures, which is fine, right? You use the money that you raised, but we're getting in front of voters, right? We want to hear what voters are saying while we're collecting these signatures.
Is it difficult for you? Are you full time as a deacon? How difficult is it to lead your normal life, or do you have to put your normal life on hold in order to run?
Yeah, no, I am trying to balance it as best as I can. I am working full time at the nonprofit. Yeah, I'm still doing some of my deacon duties, even though I have talked to my pastor and said, there's some events and some services that I won't be able to make it to because we will be out there campaigning. And I am a new father, so my
Oh,
my
congratulations.
daughter is only 8 months old. So yeah, it's a lot going on in my life, but it's all exciting. It's all worth it. Yeah.
Well, she'll be listening to a lot of politics, and who knows, she might be able to understand some of it as well.
Oh yeah, yeah. I'll just share this. When she was a newborn, we first bought her home, and she would wake up at night. We would actually just be watching Senate hearings. So she's a she's already used to it as an infant. She was listening to Senate hearings.
How long have you been listening to Senate hearings? Was that part of your research after you decided to run, or you have always been interested in the Senate
Oh
hearing?
no, I've always been interested in politics and even more so governance and the U.S. government and the Constitution. And then even more so the Senate. I think the Senate is a very unique institution, and I know some of my progressive friends want to abolish the Senate. You can probably find articles around abolishment of the Senate, but I am pro the Senate as an institution. I think it's a broken institution now, um, but I think it can serve a progressive purpose if there was some changes to the institution.
Mhm. And the mistakes, the lapses that you see in the Senate now, they've been there for about how long do you figure?
Probably all its life, all the institution's life. Um, but some of those things probably bubbled up, like you didn't necessarily see them early on, but folks have the trying to think the word I'm looking for. Folks have basically used the system to their advantage and have broken it by using it, right? And so we've seen some of that, and so that can be fairly new sometimes. For example, and this is on the Democratic side, right? This was back during Obama's first term when Harry Reid was Senate Majority Leader, and the Senate Republicans were basically putting a stop to a bunch of Obama nominations. And Harry Reid at that time decided to use the nuclear option and take away um, the filibuster on those nominations. And then we saw that happen with judges, and then we saw Mitch McConnell use it with the Supreme Court judges as well. Um, so like those type of things that I believe have slowly broken the institution. Even though I believe we need to get rid of the the
Filibuster?
filibuster as it is today. I do believe we need to have a conversation about the Senate as an institution for real deliberation, and I don't think that the institution today does any real deliberation.
Mhm. So what other activism have you done? Is it usually as part of the church or is it your nonprofit that is doing the activism?
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if I'll call it activism, right? I think there are folks because I don't want to co-opt that term of activist because I think there are folks out here that are doing real activist work, right? I am always happy to join in with activists and be in solidarity with activists, whether that was the Black Lives Matter movement, whether, of course, the movement around abolishing ICE. I'm always happy to join those movements and even labor movements, but I wouldn't want to co-opt that term activists. My work at Feeding America is more oriented around um, like institutional policy change rather than like outsider activist work.
If our listeners want to learn more about you, Christopher Swann, who is running for U.S. Senate, where should they go?
They can visit my website at Swann for Senate. That's SWANN for Senate.com, and they will find more about me and learn about this movement and learn about the excitement that we're seeing on the ground and lend their support, help us knock on some doors, help us get some signatures, and help us raise some money.
And finally, is there one sharp difference that differentiates you from other incumbents and other, let's say, candidates that are also running?
Yeah, this is a surefire progressive movement here at this campaign because we believe that what's happening around the world, especially in Palestine, is is not American values, and we need to call that out what it is, right? Especially what's happening in Palestine, we need to call it a genocide, and we need to call it an ethnic cleansing. And until we do, and we actually act against what's happening over there, I don't think that we're going to fight for the issues here at home. And so I am one that is standing 10 toes down. Keep that in mind, 10 toes down on our values abroad and here at home.
Thank you so much, Christopher Swann, who is running for U.S. Senate.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.